The golden foliage of autumn 2001 cloaked the rolling hills of Vermont in waves of honey and scarlet, setting a breathtaking stage for what should have been the Carter family's unforgettable journey. Olivia Carter, 36, had mapped every detail of this multi-state road trip for months in advance, tracing winding routes from their small town of Sunderland all the way to the misty valleys of New Hampshire. Her husband, Daniel, their spirited twin boys, Noah and Ethan, aged 10, and her younger brother, Sean, 28, were all brimming with excited anticipation, ready for 2 weeks of adventure, not just as a family, but as a team. Olivia, always the meticulous planner, had triple-checked every item on her list. Teaching science at the local middle school had shaped her into a perfectionist who left nothing to chance vacations included. This trip was her way of celebrating Daniel's recent appointment as head nurse at the county hospital and her son's first summer after a difficult school year. She stocked their emerald green 1998 Subaru Outback with color-coded luggage, an arsenal of camping supplies, and enough provisions to last through any emergency. Daniel looked on with his signature, bemused grin, only half mocking her legendary thoroughness. The morning of September 27th dawned clear and sharp, with that crisp, almost otherworldly Vermont air that always seemed charged with promise. Olivia ran through her checklists again, while Daniel tied down the last of the tents. Noah and Ethan, wearing the matching jackets Sean had given them, chattered endlessly about the wilderness mysteries they hoped to solve. Even Sean, a restless soul who had just left his first post-grad job, was genuinely eager for him. This vacation was a rare chance to reconnect with his sister and her family. As the Carters set off, unaware of the shadows their trip would cast, Olivia's mother, Helen Bennett, an energetic retired journalist, snapped a quick photo from the porch, her ritual blessing for each family adventure. The Carter family's emerald Subaru hugged the winding curves of Route 7, the boys singing along to a playlist of classic rock between fits of laughter. Their first and last confirmed stop came soon after, at a small gas station on the edge of Bennington, an old whitewashed building surrounded by pumpkins and corn stalks for the pending harvest festival. Security footage would later capture Olivia at the pump, carefully filling the tank, while the twins selected candy bars and Sean browsed a rack of local hiking maps. The clerk, Bonnie Rivers, remembered them vividly. Ethan, eager to show Sean a plastic compass, lost his balance and dropped his juice, which prompted Olivia to buy him another, with a gentle, practiced smile. Bonnie would later tell investigators the group was full of good spirits, with no hint that their day would end in mystery. By late afternoon, they were expected to arrive at the Maple Glen Inn, a cozy bed and breakfast tucked beside a red-gold forest in Grafton. Olivia had made reservations months earlier, noting to the proprietor that they'd be traveling with children and would be arriving before sunset for safety. But the Carters never appeared. And as the sun slipped behind the hills, an uneasy feeling crept across the innkeeper, Mrs. Martha Abbott's mind. Knowing Olivia's reputation for punctuality, Mrs. Abbott waited anxiously until nearly midnight before contacting the local sheriff. The initial police response was measured. Delayed travelers weren't unusual in the scenic Vermont countryside, especially after nightfall. But by the next morning, when neither the inn nor Olivia's mother Helen could reach the Carters' cell phone, anxiety shifted to alarm. Mrs. Abbott provided the sheriff with Olivia's meticulously typed road itinerary, which charted a straightforward course northeast on Route 7, then along remote, picturesque state roads, a journey of about 3 hours in fair weather. That morning, Daniel's eldest sister, Detective Fiona Carter, received a call from the sheriff's office. It would upend the foundation of her life. She took an emergency leave from the Massachusetts State Police and sped north, her mind racing through every childhood memory she'd ever shared with her brother, knowing his cautious habits and devotion to his family. The roads Olivia had chosen were popular with leaf peepers and weekend hikers, making the family's disappearance incomprehensible. As day broke over mist-shrouded hills, the concern in Sunderland deepened to a chilling dread. Detective Fiona Carter arrived at the Maple Glen Inn and quickly established a makeshift command post in its sunroom. Maps, printouts, and Olivia's itinerary spread across every available surface. Vermont State Police, joined by sheriff's deputies and local search and rescue volunteers, began a meticulous sweep along the Carters' last known route, stopping at every intersection, picnic area, and overlook. But the late September weather turned against them. A surprise nor'easter swept down from the mountains the following day, dumping more than a foot of heavy, wet snow onto roads and fields that were just a day before golden with leaves. Search efforts halted entirely for 2 crucial days. The landscape transformed into a monochrome maze that devoured all trace of the missing family. When the weather finally cleared and search teams could take up their task again, the region had become unrecognizable. Fresh snow had obliterated tire tracks, footprints, and any hint of the Carter family's Subaru. State police dogs struggled through the unfamiliar snow, while helicopters scanned the tangled forests for anything out of the ordinary. Rumors flew through Sunderland and Grafton. Some said the Carters had eloped to Canada or fled debts, but those who knew Olivia dismissed such talk outright. Helen Bennett, Olivia's mother, was not content to wait at home. Drawing upon her years covering investigative stories, she launched a parallel civilian search, organizing volunteers, gathering local tips, and setting up a hotline for leads. Aided by Olivia's colleagues from the middle school and Daniel's co-workers from the hospital, Helen transformed the search into a community mission. They scoured hiking trails, abandoned cabins, and hunting camps rarely visited even by locals, placing flyers on every bulletin board and in every diner for counties around. The family's story spread throughout Vermont and into the national news. Phone lines flooded with calls from would-be witnesses' reports came in of a green Subaru spotted in a grocery lot in New Hampshire, a woman and twin boys seen at a rest area near the Connecticut River. Each new tip led only to disappointment. Meanwhile, every Friday, Ethan and Noah's schoolteacher, Ms. Ramirez, skipped her lunch to dust their desks and quietly hope for the boys' return. Weeks stretched into months. The Emerald Subaru became a legend, whispered in diners during stormy nights. As winter descended on Vermont, snowdrifts buried the hopes of finding the Carters, but Detective Fiona Carter refused to give up. Using her law enforcement contacts, she brought in search and rescue teams from as far away as Maine and New York. Specialized canines, infrared-equipped drones, and volunteer groups rotated through the forests and valleys. But each search yielded nothing, only silence, snow, and growing sorrow. Helen, meanwhile, organized candlelight vigils and press conferences, keeping her daughter's story alive. She cataloged every rumor, every piece of gossip, every maybe into a sprawling binder, convinced that somewhere the right clue must be waiting. The Carter home stood untouched, Christmas lights still up, the twins' bikes on the porch, a frozen tableau of a life interrupted. By spring, the search lost momentum. Most volunteers surrendered to the fatigue of heartbreak, but Fiona Carter and Helen Bennett pressed on, haunted by the same question. How could an entire family, so prepared and loved, vanish without trace? Years ticked by, and hope frayed. But both women refused to let go. Then, in the spring of 2029, a twist neither of them could have imagined. A team of environmental science graduate students from Dartmouth College, conducting a habitat study deep in the Green Mountain National Forest, stumbled across a half-buried metallic object near a remote ravine. It turned out to be a severely damaged, obsolete handheld GPS, The equipment, caked with mud and scarred by time, was intact enough to bear the faded sticker. Property of Mrs. O. Carter. Excitement and fear gripped Helen and Detective Carter as Vermont State Police technology experts began the painstaking process of extracting fragments of data from the nearly 30-year-old device. The GPS, astonishingly, still stored partial location logs coordinates that did not match any official road, but snaked into forgotten paths deep within the forest. With trembling hands, Detective Fiona Carter reviewed the recovered GPS data alongside Vermont's most experienced forest rangers. The logs detailed a path winding off the marked forest roads and tracing obsolete logging trails long forgotten by even veteran locals. The signals ended at a rugged, overgrown glen, a place deep enough that the usual search methods would never have reached it. A fresh multi-agency search effort was deployed, guided by the GPS coordinates and equipped with the latest technology drones, ground-penetrating radar, and cadaver dogs. The teams hacked through brambles and scaled mossy ravines. The forest was almost eerily silent, as if it, too, held its breath. After nearly a week combing the dense underbrush around the glen, the searchers found what generations had feared and obsessed over: the skeletal remains of the Subaru, its faded green paint barely visible beneath layers of moss and fallen leaves, hidden beside an ancient stone wall from the days of the early settlers. Inside and nearby, sheltered by nature's embrace, were fragments of the Carter family's life. A child's drawing tucked into a rusted lunchbox, a tattered notebook full of Olivia's meticulous handwriting, one blue and red jacket bundled up with a beloved stuffed fox. It became clear that the Carters had survived for days, perhaps weeks, after their car became hopelessly stuck in the ravine, using camping gear and their survival sense to make one last, determined stand. Evidence showed they'd built makeshift shelters, rationed supplies, and recorded daily notes. Olivia's last entries, written in shaking script, sent messages of hope and love to anyone who might find them. But a brutal early blizzard, confirmed by weather records from October 2001, had swept through the region, bringing deadly cold and cutting off any hope of rescue. Among the records, carved into an old tree with a penknife, were the twin boys' initials, proof that even in their last days, the Carter family had clung to one another, leaving their mark on the world in the way they always had. Together. The discovery made headlines nationwide, finally ending decades of rumor and uncertainty. In Sunderland, neighbors wept as the family was brought home. Helen Bennett, though heartbroken, spoke at their memorial of Olivia's unbreakable spirit and the love that even the wildest woods could not conceal. The Carter family's story, once a mystery, became a testament to perseverance, hope, and the indelible bonds that keep us searching for those we love, no matter how deep the shadows.